Donald Trump and Abes Friendship Day Golf, Sumo, and Barbecue. Hours before President Donald Trump was set to begin, he issued a tweet underscoring his lingering divides with Prime Minister Shinzo Abe over security matters. The that Abe faces in cultivating an ally in Trump, whose deeply personal view of diplomacy has led to ample displays of friendship that nevertheless sometimes fail to yield results. Trump tweeted as he prepared for a round of golf with Abe that, a view deeply at odds with his Japanese hosts and in conflict with statements made a day earlier by his national security advisor. North. The Japanese government has said North Korea's recent test of short-range missiles violated UN resolutions, a determination that National Security Advisor, John Bolton, on Saturday during a briefing with reporters. Trump, who has chafed in recent weeks at what he views as an overly hawkish approach from Bolton, signaled he was more intent on preserving his relationship with Kim Jong-un. It was a startling start to what was meant to be an ostentatious display of U.S.-Japan unity, orchestrated by a prime minister whose stabs at becoming Trump's closest global ally are bound by few limits of enthusiasm or taste. There were the gold-plated golf clubs he presented the newly elected Trump during a visit to his Manhattan Tower in November 2016. There were the white base, and this week, there is, the first four. Whether any of that has helped Abe cultivate Trump into anything more than a friend is unclear. What is certain, on Sunday, that is set to continue as Abe joins Trump at a course outside Tokyo for another round of golf, the latest of several outings the men have enjoyed both in Japan and Florida, over the past 2 years. Later, it's back to the capital for a highly anticipated appearance at the finals of a spring sumo wrestling tournament, where Trump will observe a few rounds of the tradition-bound sport from ringside seats. The trophy presented, Trump and Abe will join their wives for dinner at a traditional charcoal grill restaurant in Tokyo, an accommodation for a president not always eager to experience his host country's more exotic offerings. Abe took Trump's predecessor, Barack Obama, to what is regarded as the best sushi restaurant in the world, Tsukiyobashi Jiro. It's an entire day of FaceTime with Trump for Abe, who is eager to diffuse trade tensions while also ensuring the U.S. remains committed to pressuring North Korea on its nuclear weapons and missile programs. The two men will meet. For Abe, a strategy of cultivating Trump has drawn some criticism and even light mockery. And though Trump himself, for that reason, analysts say the state visit invitation this week is less about Abe's personal relationship with Trump than it is about a trans-Pacific alliance rooted in decades-old security and economic concerns. Whether Abe will succeed in converting his warm friendship into trade and security wins remains unknown. Trump, who's speaking at a dinner of business leaders shortly after touching down in Tokyo on Saturday, Trump repeated his gripes with the trade situation, but expressed optimism on a resolution. On security matters, too, Japanese officials have felt rattled by Trump. His diplomatic according to White House officials, those issues would be under discussion during this week's visit to Japan. But they were Trump, who was briefed by Abe on some of the visit's details during a visit to Washington last month, has been, according to officials. He told reporters when Abe told him the sumo wrestling tournament would be bigger than the Super Bowl, Trump couldn't refuse. It's a model that other world leaders have utilized to varying levels of success on a president highly susceptible to extravagant displays of flattery. During a first stop abroad in Saudi Arabia 2 years ago, Trump was treated to a royal sword dancing display and a now-mocked ceremony involving a glowing orb. His relationship, the U.S. strongest ally, has found the flattery route somewhat harder to execute. A state visit it will finally come to fruition next week, and the royal welcome from Queen Elizabeth will be met with expected protests. Meanwhile,
Raindrop, drop top, top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking